Good afternoon and welcome to the Office of Tax Appeals. My name is Kim Wilson and this hearing is for the appeal of Swanson. A stenographer, Ms. Alonzo, is present and reporting this hearing verbatim. To ensure we have an accurate record, we ask that each person speaks one at a time and avoid speaking over one another. Also speak clearly and loudly. When needed, Ms. Alonzo or any panel member will interject to ensure proper transcription. After the hearing, Ms. Alonzo will produce the official hearing transcript, which will be available on the Office of Tax Appeals website. The Office of Tax Appeals is not a court, but is an independent appeals body which is staffed by subject matter experts and is independent of any tax agency. While the Office of Tax Appeals is not a court, we must nevertheless follow certain guidelines to ensure that we have a proper record on which a decision is based and to conduct an orderly hearing. Each party will have the opportunity to be heard, so please wait for your turn to present your side. Also, keeping us on track and creating a clean and efficient hearing record is part of my role as lead panel member. Are there any questions before we begin?
I do have a hard time hearing, but I'll do the best I can.
Okay. Are we ready to proceed, Ms. Alonzo? Yep. Judge Long and Judge Ralston. Thank you. We are going on the record. This is the appeal of Swanson, OTA case number 2308-13992. The date is August 19, 2025, and the time is 9:43 a.m. This hearing is being held in Sacramento, California. My co-panelists, Judge Long and Judge Ralston, and I are equal participants in deliberating and determining the outcome of this appeal. I'm going to ask the parties to identify themselves for the record, starting with appellant. If you could please state your name for the record.
Oh, Melvin L. Swanson.
Thank you.
Ariana Macedo for Respondent Franchise Tax Board, and with me today is Brad Catino. Is this better? Can you hear me better now? Okay. Did you need me to repeat? No, okay.
As stated in the minutes and orders, the issues to be decided in this appeal are whether appellant has established reasonable cause to abate the late filing penalty and whether appellant has established a legal basis to abate interest. As discussed in the pre-hearing conference, appellant submitted exhibits A through J, which we relabeled 1 through 10. FTB did not object to the admissibility of these exhibits. Following the pre-hearing conference, appellant submitted 3 additional exhibits, which we labeled 11 through 13. Ms. Macedo, do you have any objections to 11 through 13?
No objections.
And this morning we received another exhibit. Mr. Swanson, why was this submitted today?
Well, I was looking at it, and at the bottom of page, this is on a 1040, at the bottom of the page, it wasn't, when I went to the IRS and same thing, they didn't have my taxes, but when I went there, I gave them my taxes, because I was wondering what was going on. But anyway, at the bottom of the page, it's not signed by my wife or myself, and it's signed by Sabrina Higbee, certified public accountant, and she's a third-party designee, or however you pronounce it, and it had PIN numbers for us. And I was looking at that, and I go, well, that's, because at the IRS, there was no problem with me not signing my taxes, which I did on 4/11. And then the second page there was, and I may be a copy, but it was something I may have this already in there, but it was the electronic funds withdrawals, and that's dated 4/18/22, which the tax time in 22 was extended because of COVID or something to the 18th from the 15th, and then I think it even, with COVID, they had months after that. But anyway, so that's what those three are about. And then the other one is the one to the Franchise Tax Board, that when I went in, same thing on the bottom. It's got PIN numbers, and Sabrina Higbee is a designated third party. And this was, when I took it in, I had brought a folder with me that when we got done with our taxes that day, there was like 84 pages in the binder that she gave me at the end, and we'd went all through it. And it was, you know, when we got done with the taxes, going through it, we thought, hey, we're done. And when I came home, I just put that whole binder in plastic, which I have here.
So, excuse me, Mr. Swanson, we're just discussing this one exhibit you provided today.
Yeah, well, I'm okay on this page.
I just wanted to know why it was not submitted timely.
What?
Why the exhibit was not submitted timely?
Well, yes, this is how it should have been, 4/11. When I went to the Franchise Tax Board, after months and months of trying to figure out what happened.
I think you misunderstood my question. Not why was your tax return not submitted timely, but why is the exhibit not timely? So the exhibit was supposed to be submitted in advance of the hearing? It's just something that you felt that needed to be in the record?
What I was concerned with after looking at this was just where it says sign here underneath our signatures, which above it, when I went into the board,
Okay.
there was no signatures on it, and they had me sign it.
Okay.
9.
All right. I understand you're getting into your argument and your
Okay, I'm
testimony,
sorry.
so let's just hold off.
Okay.
And Ms. Maceda, do you have any objection to this late exhibit?
No objection.
Okay, we'll go ahead and admit it and label it 14. So since there are no objections, we'll admit exhibits 1 through 14 for appellant. Next, we have FTB submitted exhibits A through I, and appellant did not object to the admissibility of these exhibits. Therefore, A through I are admitted into evidence. Mr. Swanson, you indicated during the pre-hearing conference that you would like to provide testimony. So I will go ahead and swear you in. Please raise your right hand.
Now, what you just said, we're going through A through I first,
No.
and you're gonna swear me in or whatever?
Yes, I'm gonna swear you in so that your testimony can be considered evidence. Okay,
Fine.
so please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Thank you. You will have 30 minutes for your presentation. You may begin when you're ready.
Which one are we, my presentation, 1 through 13?
Your presentation is whatever you want to present, witness testimony to support the evidence in the record and your position.
Well, I guess I'll start with one on my evidence. That's a record of e-filing on, and it's dated 4/18, and I owed the taxes of $25,381. And it's got my routing numbers and everything that date that we filled out, my wife and I, at 4/11. And so that's the first one, Exhibit 1. Exhibit 2, must be. Exhibit 2 is a confirmation that my taxes to the Franchise Tax Board weren't paid on after 4/11, 4/12, before April 15th, and they were paid at 7/1/22, $25,381. That was supposed to have been paid overnight, is what, we never ever did whatever you call that, electronic taxes, and so we did what our account said. So anyway, they got the money, but they didn't get it between 4/11 and 4/18. And so that's raised flag. Number 3 is the Golden One Credit Union, just acknowledgement that on, trying to see where the date is. Anyway, it was acknowledgement that the Golden One, that there was an electronic withdrawal on, oh, this was signed, this is the paper we signed for electric withdrawal. It's not a confirmation of it. This was what we signed to release the information to Sabrina Higbee to withdraw from our account to pay those funds. Exhibit 4 was, was about failure, filed for it, and it was shown to be failure to us as a reasonable clause without neglect. And something I noted on here was the delinquent penalty was imposed of $6,345.25, but something that whoever typed this, right below that, on the bottom of the first paragraph, it says December 8th, 2022, and it should have said 4/11/22, but even the December 8th is the wrong date. It should have been December 9th, 22, I guess. But anyway, that's just a point there. They had to be sent electronically. Number 5 was down about the middle of the page. It says, your position, and I wrote on there, it's a false statement. It says, specifically, you repeatedly contacted your taxpayer, Sabrina Higbee, and that's not true. I've had, after May 11th or whatever it was, when I tried to get hold of her to find out what was going on, why they weren't, funds weren't taken out. She wouldn't answer her phone, and so we actually went to her office, and that's when she was closing her business and moving out. And I never, after that date, I think that was May 7th or something, it's in here several places, but I never had any contact, any kind of, that was the last time we saw her, and I phoned and phoned and phoned, and I have in one of my other exhibits some of the phone calls, and probably not a lot of them were on there because we were lost. We were told we had a person that had been in business for 10 years that doing our neighbors' taxes and stuff, and anyway, I'll go to Exhibit 6, and that's another false statement, and it says on July 1, okay, that's the date, you remitted payment of $25,381. I don't have any way of submitting that. We never did. So only thing I can say is that my constant calls to Sabrina Higbee, which my phone shows my name on it, and she must have finally went back and got our file or something, looked at it, and she submitted. She's the only one that had our information and our stuff, you know, to withdraw funds and all that. So that was not done by us, absolutely not. Number 7 was my statements that I guess don't need to read it, but when started and found out that the taxes weren't paid, I finally decided after a long time just not getting a hold of her, I went to the IRS to see what was going on, and I was told that our taxes were paid, and I thought, hey, they finally got paid, and which was on the whatever date there. I don't have it right in front of me. July, and then so then on Exhibit 8, and back to 7. That had 7 had all of the times in there, and that I tried to get a hold of Sabrina and never was able to get through because her line was busy. And at one point, there was an answering machine that said that she was going to email everybody. Well, we never got any kind of email from her. We never heard from her to this date. And then on Exhibit 8, I requested abatement of interest, and that'll be discussed a little bit later, I guess. And Exhibit 9 was actually when we went to the Franchise Tax Board, and gave the person there, and in a franchise tax board, it wasn't like the IRS. You went into a room where it was quiet and everything. Franchise tax board had an open floor with windows and people, a lot of noise and everything else. But anyway, she said, "Doe, you know, we got your money, but we didn't get your taxes, like the IRS." And I said, "We have the taxes with us." So I gave her the taxes, and when she made copies of it and that, she looked at the end there on this page, and she says, "You didn't sign your taxes, sign them." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll sign them for 11/22, which was the date they should have been signed." And she said, "No, sign them 12/9/22. I said, "Well, that's not the date we got our taxes done." And I asked to talk to a supervisor, and she says, "I couldn't talk to a supervisor." And I'm going, at that point, you know, I'm thinking, well, maybe I ought to just leave. And then I said, she's already got the information, so that wouldn't do any good. So anyway, we ended up signing them unwillingly. And then Exhibit 10 was just a quick summary from 2004 to 2023. We never were ever late on our taxes. We always did them, sent them in, and we didn't do them electronically, only on the 2022 in Sabrina's office, because she said, that's what we do. It'll be there the next day. And then the next exhibit, 11, I just made the 2 pages of the dates, all the dates I tried getting a hold of her and were never able to, just so it was clear, because it was in the previous statements and stuff. And anyway, May 5th is when I went to her office, when wondering why the money wasn't withdrawn. And I guess July 5th is when the money was withdrawn. She must have sent it in. She's the only one that could have. And then the next exhibit, 12, that's just my actual calendar, which I have the calendar here too, but I made copies of when I tried to get a hold of her. And so that's, then last thing on there, which I actually thought it was going to be on the first, was my statement to Franchise Tax Board. It was after finding out from the IRS that our taxes were never received, I started calling the Franchise Tax Board and see if they received our taxes and stuff. Phone lines were always busy, just like Sabrina's, really. And I finally was able to get through and made an appointment for 12/9, and the agent said that the Franchise Tax Board got our taxes from the golden one. They were withdrawn 7/1/22. We told her that taxes we told her weren't paid. And anyway, it goes on and on about that. Anyway, we gave the agent a copy of our taxes. She said they were not signed, to sign them with the 12/9/22 date. We said the taxes were not done. They were done on 4/11/22, and that is the date we should sign. We asked to see the supervisor, and she said this is kind of repetitious from before. Then she said we could not just sign the taxes. This was like signing a confession. It was not a fact. The agent gave us an amount that we owed for penalty, and she gave us an amount for a penalty of $685.54. And we didn't have our checkbook, so we said we'll go home and we'll write a check and get a return receipt and mail it. We went home on December 9th and immediately wrote the check out, took it over and put it in the mail. And then next thing, everything was fine. When we walked out of there then, we said, hey, we paid our penalty, we're done, and we felt good about, hey, we came and we presented the taxes and we got charged a penalty of $685.54. Well then, on 1/12/23, we received a letter from the Franchise Tax Board that we owed $6,345.25 for the penalty, and then $304 for interest. And anyway, we owed $6,654.95, and we paid it that day with a voucher. Well, what this right here shows me that the person that we were dealing with at the Franchise Tax Board she's supposed to be a competent person, and she told us our penalty was $685. We said, hey, we'll pay the $685, this is done. And then all of a sudden, we get this thing we owe $6,654. So she made a mistake. So, I'm not perfect, and evidently she's not perfect. So, what the heck? I've been an honest man all my life, and respectful and everything. And, I've made some mistakes, and if I made a mistake, I took care of them. And I feel that this was so unjust, and it really was about calling us untruthful or liars. And we did everything. We had $125,000 of our money to pay out. We knew we had to pay. We were proud that we'd made money on our sale of our rental and knew we had to pay taxes. And we ended up with a person that had personal problems, evidently, after being in business for a long time, and highly recommended. I don't feel that, I feel it's reasonable cause that we got caught up in somebody else's failure. So that is, I guess, what I want to say at the end of that. Now, do I have to go on with the franchise, or do they do it with their A through I?
Your presentation is anything you want to provide. So any testimony you would like to give supporting the exhibits? I know you read some of them. Did you want to explain more in detail about your attempts, the phone calls, or?
Now, do I want to explain anything in more detail about what I just went through?
Yes.
Hey, I've detailed it out in the 3-page handwritten, originally what I submitted, the same thing that I submitted to the IRS, and the IRS abated $25,000 and something in penalties after they read that, and over 2 phone calls, they abated it down to, I think, $811 of interest, the IRS. And I thought they read what I said, the honest truth, and took my word for being an honest person. So that's that part. Now I have a question: are they presenting their A through I, or am I supposed to go through that?
I believe the Franchise Tax Board will make a presentation. I'm not sure they're going to go over every exhibit. but they'll provide a summary of the case. So if you want to provide any information in
Well,
regards
let
to
me
their
look at it.
exhibits.
I'll look at it and see what on their A, Exhibit A, that was basically showed that we owed $25,000 in taxes to the state. And actually, I guess the total amount was like 49 with our, from our sale of our rental property and our regular income. B, was our California returns. Just showing what we paid in taxes, $49,000, and we owed anyway, we owed additional 26,000 or something. The balance due, this was, they sent out just saying that we made we owed 49,594, and we had a penalty of 6,345 and then interest. Anyway, that we owed what I said before, 6,654.98, which was sent to us that we took care of.
Mr. Swanson, we do have the exhibits and we will review them. So if there's anything specific you don't agree with in the exhibits or you want to point out, otherwise we do have the exhibits and we will review them.
Well, reasonable cause papers and request for abatement. I guess we've talked about that. Exhibit E was, I received the letter that was, E was a denial of the claim, saying it wasn't a real reasonable clause of stipulation. I understand that if you don't pay your taxes, they're supposed to be paid, and we tried everything, fought for a year, and this has been 4 years later that I'm finally here. And then Exhibit E was the only thing on it was the wrong date. It had 12/8/22 instead of 12/9. And then the next thing, G, was whatever somebody sent here, the figures on G. There's 2 columns, and the first column, the total was 56,250, and the second column totaled right. And in the first column, they had them both the same. I don't know who did that. And H is a transcript, I guess, from the IRS showing that they've finally got down to, on here it says 1,013, but I think the interest got down to 811 or something like that. On the next page, I have the interest ended up being reduced with IRS to 811.81, and I have a copy of return check and stuff from the IRS. Exhibit I is the last thing, and it was a bunch of pages about the, from the IRS too, I guess, what taxes went through that. And then, I guess that's it. I've done my best, and now I noticed on the agenda something that said a closing statement. Am I supposed to do that now, or is that, were they gonna present something?
So what's going to happen next is Franchise Tax Board will make their presentation, and then afterwards you'll have a chance to provide a closing statement.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
After Franchise Tax Board makes their presentation, you'll have 5 or 10 minutes to make a
Okay,
closing.
that's what I understood. I thought they had something.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to ask Franchise Tax Board, do you have any questions for appellant?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Judge Ralston, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Judge Long?
Yes, I do have some questions. I want to ask, if you could you walk us through your attempts to contact your return preparer? You've written in your exhibits the dates, but I'd like to hear from you to tell us what happened with the return preparer.
Could I walk you through with,
Yes, you've written in the exhibits that you tried multiple times to contact the return preparer, the CPA who prepared your return. Can you walk us through the dates and how many times you tried to contact her, please?
well, that's what I have the calendar list, which was Exhibit 11, and my calendar. And on February 11th, this starts from the beginning. That's the first I called to make an appointment. On March 11th, 22, we went to our first appointment, and she asked us. We brought her information with us, and she asked if we had this and that, and we had everything there. She was very surprised that we had all our information and stuff in our folders, answered every question. And she was doing things and stuff, and we wanted to make sure why we were doing our taxes all the time. We wanted to make sure that we didn't take and do something with the rental and end up here, you know. But anyway, she was able to take and work on with. My wife had all of the stuff on the rentals, depreciations and all that. And like I say, she was amazed, and it was a quick appointment, and we felt real good when we came out of that. And then on April 11th, we were called and had an appointment to pick up our taxes. We went in, and she had the taxes done. She went through 84 pages of taxes, which I have here. And normally our taxes in 21 that we did ourselves had, in 20, the year before, was 11 pages for IRS and Franchise Tax Board. And then 21 taxes, there was 86 pages, excuse me. And then 22, it was back to, we had to do our taxes again because we didn't have a accountant that we thought we were gonna have for the rest of our life. And anyway, there was 12 pages. But, so then, we didn't hear from her, and then on May 5th, we called and called, and no answer. So we drove to Loomis, where her office was, and she was moving out. And we asked her, why weren't our taxes paid? Why wasn't, actually, we didn't know that. We said, why wasn't the money taken out of our account, you know, the 16th? And, or actually the 12th. And, because she said it would be taken out the next day and everything would be paid. And she said, oh, the IRS and the Franchise Tax Board are lacking labor and they're overwhelmed, and so don't worry about it, you know. Everything was taken care of. They got sent, your taxes and the money stuff. Well, it didn't happen. And then July 1st, I made an appointment with the IRS on Watt Avenue, wondering, you know, I hadn't heard anything, and I don't know how many times I tried to get a hold of her between there. And when I went in on July 1st, the agent told me, yes, your taxes were paid. Or excuse, yeah, he said, we received the money, your taxes were paid. So that's the question I asked him. He answered that. He didn't say anything more. Anyway, after we left there, things were quiet. I'm going, well, taxes were paid, finally. And then I don't know if I called a lot more, but anyway, I started calling in October. And October 14th, 21st, 24th, and I would get mailboxes are full on both lines. She had her office line, and we had her cell phone number. And then on November, I called, and November 7th, the mailbox is full. November 23rd, I said, something's not going on right. I had another ill feeling, so I made an appointment back at Watt Avenue at the IRS, and went in and talked to the agent. It was very pleasant, and he says, you know, he says, your taxes were paid, but we never got your taxes. And I about had a heart attack. And anyway, I said, well, I have the taxes with me. So he made a copy, and there was no question with him about not signing it on 11th. And that's what that new piece I brought you was showing, that she was a third party and had our PIN numbers and stuff on it. And, you know, we never heard of a PIN number before that. Anyway, then November 28th, I thought, well, hey, if the IRS didn't get, you know, the money on time and the taxes on time, then I better start calling the Franchise Tax Board, which I tried calling, was busy, just like Sabrina's numbers, and I finally did get through, because I think I finally went on a hearing impaired line and was able to get through, and was able to make an appointment for December 9th, and that's when we went to the Franchise Tax Board, and anyway, I already read what happened there, and like I say, I was very disappointed that the number went from a penalty of $600 and some dollars to $6,000, and I guess that just irritated me, and I guess so I filed for, you know, to have that abated and stuff, and anyway, I guess I'm an old guy and I start rambling on. I want to get out of here myself. And anyway, after December 19th, I tried calling Sabrina's numbers, and she had another number, and it rang busy, but the other two were the same, always, mailbox is full. December 30th, I called again, and mailbox is full, and busy signal again, so I guess end of my presentation. I'm so tired.
All right, that answers my questions. Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to the Franchise Tax Board's presentation. You have 10 minutes, and you can begin when you're ready.
Good morning. My name is Ariana Macedo, and I represent
I can't hear her.
Good morning. My name is Ariana Macedo, and I represent Respondent Franchise Tax Board in this matter. I am joined today by my colleague, Brad Catino. There are two issues on appeal today. First, whether appellants have established reasonable cause to abate the delinquent filing penalty imposed for the 2021 taxable year. Second, whether appellants have established a basis to abate the interest imposed for the 2021 taxable year. Turning to the first issue, Franchise Tax Board properly imposed a delinquent filing penalty when appellants failed to timely file a 2021 tax return. Appellants untimely filed their 2021 tax return in December of 2022, nearly 8 months after the April 15th filing deadline. On appeal, appellants contend that they acted with ordinary business care and prudence by timely providing the necessary information to their tax preparer and relying on their tax preparer to timely file their 2021 tax return. Although respondent sympathizes with appellant's position, it is well settled that taxpayers have a personal, non-delegable obligation to file their tax return by the due date. For example, in the precedential opinion, Appeal of Quality Tax and Financial Services Incorporated, OTA stated that in the absence of an acknowledgement that a return was transmitted, received, and accepted, an ordinarily intelligent and prudent business person would have its e-filing history and acknowledgement records for that return to confirm whether it had been transmitted, received, and accepted. Here, appellants contend that their tax preparer assured them that she would timely e-file their 2021 tax return. However, appellants have failed to provide any documented proof, such as confirmation receipts and/or emails, to substantiate that they made an effort to obtain, review, and confirm their 2021 tax return had been timely filed. Accordingly, appellants have not established reasonable cause to abate the delinquent filing penalty imposed for the 2021 taxable year. Moving to the second issue, appellants have failed to demonstrate that they qualify for interest abatement. Appellants have failed to demonstrate 1, unreasonable error or delay by the Franchise Tax Board in its performance of a ministerial or managerial act. 2, extreme financial hardship caused by significant disability or other catastrophic circumstance. Or 3, reliance on the written advice of the Franchise Tax Board. Accordingly, appellants have failed to establish a basis to abate the interest imposed for the 2021 taxable year. Based on the relevant case law, facts, and evidence in the record, respondent requests that the OTA sustain respondent's position. I am happy to address any questions you may have at this time. Thank you.
Judge Ralston, do you have any questions for Franchise Tax Board?
Well, I heard her say I had,
Mr. Swanson?
oh,
This is Judge Ralston. I don't have any questions for Franchise Tax Board. Thank you.
And Judge Long, do you have any questions for Franchise Tax Board?
I have no questions. Thank you.
I did have one question. Mr. Swanson mentioned that there was a different penalty amount mentioned to him at the time of his appointment versus the letter. Could you provide some explanation to what happened, or?
FTB does not want to speculate
Can't
as
hear you.
FTB does not wish to speculate as to why the penalties were different. However, we can confirm that a refund was issued in the amount of $683 and change on February 6, 2023. Therefore, the initial payment was refunded.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Swanson, you have 5 to 10 minutes if you'd like to make a closing statement.
Well, the one thing she said was about documents. I feel that I had plenty of documents that I've presented that for a reasonable clause, and I know in the pre-hearing, I think, which I was a mess, I think she has asked if I had, my telephone bills and, documents. I never thought anything would go that I'd have to go back and get my telephone bills out from the periods of 22 and I could have got that, but hey, my wife said, hey, forget it, it's driving you nuts. And in my closing statement, I'll just say this. Do you know what a Boy Scouts of America is? Well, I'm an Eagle Scout. I was raised in a scouting family, and I had an older brother who was Eagle Scout and on even higher than that. And I got my Eagle Scout badge. I was one of the youngest in the Sacramento area to get Eagle Scout. And I lived by the Scout rules. I grew up being honest, thrifty, courteous, kind, obedient, and all of from the Scout oath. And I had a mother and dad that were all involved in the scouting and stuff. Anyway, after that, I had a note here that, we took Sabrina at her word and in trust, and that's what I've always believed, that my word, if I told you I was going to do something, I did it. And if something came along that might be better, and I raised my kids that way, you gave your word, you follow through. Anyway, she let us down. She didn't keep her word or because of her business. And my wife and we always do the best and try to get good results. And we grew up in a time when somebody was going to do something, their word was honest. And we can't be held liable for somebody's personal or business problems. We have done our best to resolve this issue. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Final questions from the panel, Judge Ralston?
No questions, thank you.
And Judge Long?
I do have one question for the Franchise Tax Board. I want to confirm the sequence of events. So, appellant goes to Franchise Tax Board for an appointment, and he's told he has a balance due, and he pays that amount, and then shortly thereafter receives a state income tax balance due notice for a different amount. And then FTB issues a refund for the first amount, and he pays the amount of the balance due notice. So he was refunded an amount when he was also still owing tax for the penalty, is that correct?
Sorry, let me just collect my notes. So the record shows that on December 9th, 2022, appellants paid $5.84, which is what the appellant stated. The FTB agent informed him was owed. Then on January 15th, 2023, taxpayers submit two payments, one in the amount of $5,971.05, and then an additional payment of $683.93. The secondary payment of $683.93, that is what was refunded. And so they satisfied the balance due on the state income tax balance due. There was a overpayment in that regards, and so it was refunded in February 6, 2023.
All right, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't have any questions for you, so we're going to go ahead and submit the case. This case is submitted today on August 19, 2025. The record is now closed. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. We will issue a written opinion within 100 days. And today's hearing in the appeal of Swanson is now concluded. The next hearing will begin in approximately 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank all of you. Thank all of you for finally giving me a chance to be here. And you know, I should have listened to my wife, though, and just forfeited another $6,000. But it's the principle of things.